Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Nozora, and this is a reshoot of a class held on Friday, June 10th, 2022, for the Jedi Praxeum. Unfortunately, we had some sound issues, so I'm re-recording this as a standalone video to be shared with the class and allowed for the general public to see. Anyway, welcome. This is the Force as Light and Sound. Context, control, creation. And I'm happy to have you with me. So, let's talk about some objectives. What are we trying to do here? 1, cover a basic definition of the Force. 2, give it real-world examples. 3, find out if there's any connections between that, science, and art. 4, we want to give a real-life test to this idea. 5, take the topic a little deeper. And lastly, take something new with us afterwards. Know your objective. So before we start, we gotta cover the class rules, and we're going to recite the Jedi Code. So, I know, rules? We have rules? Yes, we have rules, okay? So let's go on to the next stage here. Damn rules! I may not see your comments. If I miss them, you may have to try again. I may have to ask you for clarification. Yoda, I am not, so please be patient. We do not swear in class. Now, behind closed doors, I probably have more bombs than a B-12. I mean, not B-12, B-29 Fortress. But we're not in that. We're in public. We don't know the age or the location of people watching this, so we're not going there. We do not demean people for their questions. That includes you people watching later in the comments. The only stupid question is the one you didn't ask. If you do not understand, please ask for clarification. There will be other instructors who will be checking in, and you may want to join the Praxeum. If you do, listen to the instructors and knights and comply with their requests. They're here to try to help everybody learn. Please do not take anything anyone, including yours truly, says in this class personally. Stay focused on the objective of the course, not your objections. Try to have a little bit of fun. This isn't all that serious. Follow the rules, you must. Indeed. So, I mentioned reciting the code. Why do we recite the code? To keep ourselves aligned with our purpose in class. To create the meditative atmosphere that helps us learn. To remind us to use it as a yardstick for our actions. And because honestly, it kind of sounds pretty dope to do it. So, the Jedi Code. Repeat it with me. We're doing this twice. There is no emotion. There is peace. There is no ignorance. There is knowledge. There is no passion. There is serenity. There is no chaos. There is harmony. There is no death. There is the Force. Let's do that one more time. There is no emotion. There is peace. There is no ignorance. There is knowledge. There is no passion. There is serenity. There is no chaos. There is harmony. There is no death. There is the Force. So who the heck am I? Well, I'm the longest running certified Jedi Knight of this body, the Jedi Praxeum. There was one person before me. He chose to leave the organization and actually, from what I understand, leave the whole life behind him, and I wish him all the best. I'm also an author and poet, a musician, a vocalist, a rapper, an entrepreneur, and proof that disability cannot stop you. Arthritis, dyslexia, ADHD, recently diagnosed with fibromyalgia, immune compromised. I've gotten a pretty poop end of the stick here, but I managed to do this, and I believe in you. I believe you can too. So this is a little card made based on the order, and it has the order symbol and the fact that I'm a member. So why listen to me? I do not pretend to be an expert in anything, but I do have 33 years of different experience, including studying energy theory, Wicca, all kinds of things related. 37 years of almost continuous yoga practice. I managed, in spite of the disabling factors, to work 70 to 90 hours a week and still get the program done. So I am dedicated I am tough as nails. But I do not take myself too seriously. I take this seriously, though. And I'm probably a little nuts for even trying to teach this. But hopefully it'll make a difference in your life and the life of other people. So let's get started. What is the Force? The Force is complicated. I'm only here to cover the physical and emotional aspects of things. By necessity, I had to wade into the deeper waters with Master Lee. We'll take it from there. Let's start with a functional definition from the fiction and build it from there. Obi-Wan said the Force is what gives the Jedi its power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. Cool, but let's make that simpler. The Force is the unseen energy that holds everything together. This is real Jediism, not cosplay. There's nothing wrong with having fun, but this is an actual spiritual path. Let's go into physics, and better yet, let's start with the dictionary. Force is the strength or energy as an attribute of physical action or movement. Oversimplification time. Big time. Force is energy as a whole, overall. Energy has qualities we can understand. It has parts we can measure. Yet realistically, all we can show is the effects, not the causation. What we are doing is breaking some of this down today to add some value to our lives and weave in the spiritual and the scientific together so we can have a richer experience. And honestly, if you pay attention, there are layers of meaning here. You can gain so much more than you know by just taking the time to think about this and go over it a couple times. So what are we focusing on today? The spiritual and scientific phenomenon known as vibration. In science, this is kinetic energy. To quote sciencing.com, which is an awesome website, really need to check out. What type of energy is vibration? Kinetic energy is the production of energy by an object in motion. There are three subcategories of kinetic energy, including vibrational, which is caused by objects vibrating, rotational, which is caused by the moving, and translational, which is caused by objects hitting one another. So, bang your head against each other and you got translational energy. On second thought, don't do that. That might hurt. Let's back up for a second, though. We need to make some basic things clear here. Everything is made of energy. If you've taken any science courses in high school, energy can't be created or destroyed. However, energy can be directed like electricity. Energy vibrates or oscillates. We can measure energy and its movement in heat, light, sound, and more. We can direct these things. For example, the lights in your house, the driving of your car or riding of a bike, playing the instrument, or using the very thing you're looking at this on. Energy vibrates. At the atomic level, particles are just bouncing all over the place. They're playing an endless game of contra pinball. Even an object at rest is a massive collision of atoms, and those atoms contain parts like protons, electrons, neutrons. Even in the heart of the atom, neutrinos and quarks in the nucleus are bouncing all over heck in creation. They are vibrating. So, what's the point? The point is, this is practical. How that energy moves affects everything. Mood, health, mental focus, body temperature, object temperature, everything. This touches every single part of your life. First focus is vibration has two main elements we're going to be covering. The sound and light, and then emotions, and how they tie into one another. So, by the power of all those things combined, we will make, hopefully, some garlic bread. I could really use some. That's really delicious. Starting with sound, okay? How sound works. Sound travels in waves. These waves have different speeds, different heights, different distances between parts, and we call this wavelengths. Sound travels through air, water, which act on it and change it. But just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not there and acting on us and the things around us. We've all been in a car and had someone roll up next to us with a bass cannon, shaking not only their car, but ours and us too. Not always cool. But we act on sound too. When the sound hits things, it bounces off. But that's only to a degree. In reality, anything it hits absorbs part of it, reducing its signal, i.e. its strength. Just like A draining boss or coworker seems to reduce your ability to function at work, and you want to just die rather than go to work tomorrow. Ideas, sound, and light. Everything has a level of energy to start with, a potential. When it hits something, like a negative person, a wall, acoustic materials, it doesn't matter, it's going to lose momentum. So, think about a time when you lost momentum and had to recharge. Go take a walk, take a nap, before you could do anything else. So, how does this affect the Force? Let's examine some of this and fit it together. When we recite the code, we're using sound. When we meditate and use mantras, we're using sound. If we use a guided meditation or sleep music or healing music, we're using sound. When we're taking a class and an idiot like me is talking, we are using sound. It's everywhere. We can use this as a thing to lean on. Sound isn't just an object. It isn't just a result. It's also a metaphor. It can be used to teach us about the Force. For one thing, a Jedi will often describe the Force in terms of music. We talk about hearing it. That may be more real than you think. More on that later. We talk about harmony, about flowing with a melody. So hang on a second. Wait a minute. If we're talking harmony, what is harmony? Well, it's a couple different things. It's the combination of all the different musical instruments and notes to produce chords and progressions that have a pleasing effect to the ears and mind. But it's also an agreement or a concord. So we, Jedi, mean both. And when we're talking about harmony, we're using both definitions and even adding to it. Having a life that's well balanced, working well, helping others, expressing who we are, and so much more is involved. But we're also talking about our body as a community and as an individual getting along. We also mean that we want to help all life, even the ones we do not understand, like, or maybe even know yet. So there's musical harmony, like the chord patterns, all those kind of things. The bigger picture, when we're talking that harmony in music doesn't just mean the melody and the main notes being played, it's how those notes flow in the song. It's the rhythm, the variations of the rhythm or cadence. A counter melody that possibly pushes against the main one, accenting it, amplifying it. There's also what the instruments are and how they produce sound. There's lyrics, if there are any, and how they compare to the tone of music. There's even the overall presentation of a performance. I have seen Ronnie James Dio live, as well as a few other people like Black Sabbath. I've also seen classical music ensembles playing those songs, and it sure is different experience. So before we leap, we need to remember, though, that different people, due to age and cultural backgrounds, may find things different. Like, different things might be untenable. Like, I personally like punk rock, black metal, thrash, mumble rap, and some indie rock that I've been told sounds like snails being strangled while they're trying to mate. And by the way, that's a real quote. That was actually said to my face. What may be cacophony to you may be harmony to me. Always be mindful of how we may judge things out of context. Sorry about the little video blurb there. There's also color harmony. As you can see, there's different forms of it. Different colors mean different things. We're talking about context. Do the colors fit do the colors together fit compared to, say, your skin tone? Does the color scheme work with the materials that it's being applied to? Does it reflect or absorb light? If so, how does this affect the physical room temperature or the lighting? Could the color even be applied to that material? I've encountered this. My wife's an artist, and there are some paints, due to their chemical basis, to create the color that just cannot be applied to metal or wood. They just can't fit on certain surfaces. And most important, to the overall context of what we're talking about, how does it impact your mood or the mood of the things around it? There's even harmony in food, and that looks amazing. So, Think about this. Do the temperatures of the different things in the food work together or compete with one another? For example, try to imagine eating a popsicle on top of a steak at the same time. Ew. Do the various textures work? I mean, imagine eating hot kiwi or oranges in the same mouthful as uncooked nuts, or worse yet, ice. Doesn't work, does it? What about herbs and sauces? Would you put hot sauce on vanilla ice cream? How about butterscotch on a steak? Would you chew jalapeno peppers with junior mints in your mouth? I mean, what about colors? Is a gray-green slab of meat going to be appealing? How about the smell? How does that change things? Then again, when we're talking about harmony, what about the environment? By the way, that's actually one of my works of art. That's called Osaka Small Rise. I made that in 2019. It's a vaporwave piece of art. Different people will have different ideas here, but we can all agree on a couple things. Nuclear waste in our water is probably unhealthy. Lead is not really good for our bodies. Inhaling big clouds of diesel engine smoke might not feel so good. And battery acid is probably bad for your pets. So when these things happen, we clean them up to restore harmony and health to our environment and those that we love. Metaphors. Yes, metaphors are everywhere. So let's get started, shall we? I found this wonderful picture of a bacon guitar. Yikes. This is a guitar. It makes pretty noises. But it's also a really good metaphor for the force and for life. And yes, because of the bacon, I'm sure some vegan is grabbing their face and tearing their eyeballs out. The cringe just got real. Sorry, guys. Seriously, though. Those 6 strings can mean a lot of things. It can be used for so much context in our life. It can stand for wavelengths of energy, moral pinpoints, the active limbs of yoga. I can go on and on, but let's focus. The first 6 strings are surface application, integrity, patience, reflection, focus, dedication, vision. So what's that supposed to mean? Do you keep your word to yourself and others? Do you know how to wait and flow with cycles, including learning from mistakes? Do you know how to think your way through things? Maybe see where the mistakes happened even? Do you know how to eliminate distraction? Or, seriously, you can use it to sharpen your life and get more done. Do you give up easily or do you keep trying? Do you know why you're doing something? The next guitar. Cooperation, constructive criticism, active listening, assessment, adaptation, action. It's the social guitar. Nothing generally gets done and nobody survives in a vacuum. There is no such thing as the great man who did it all by itself. Steve Jobs did not invent the iPod. He conceived of it, but it was physically made by engineers and other people. Elon Musk did not invent PayPal. He came up with a concept and had programmers who carried it out. Same with Tesla, all these things. Nobody survives in a vacuum. No man is an island. That's bull. In order to survive, we have to give and receive feedback, make sure we aren't hurting others or allowing others to hurt us or hurting ourselves. When we're communicating, it does not work to argue or to ignore the other person. We have to make sure we understand what's going on. Once we get told something, we need to figure out if it's true, if it will really help, and whether or not we can actually do it. I mean, you may not be able to. What good is knowing something if you don't change anything? And what good is changing something if you don't put it into practice? There's also the internal guitar for internal harmony, meditation, exercise, continuing education, proper rest, cooperative health, nutrition. These should be easy to grasp, but you also need to understand, what about depression? People working 2 and 3 jobs, people with learning disabilities. What about mental health issues? We need to step off the judgment accelerator here and slow that car down and look in the rear view and see when we were the ones running ourselves down, and then forgive ourselves for that. So how do we fix this? How do we use those internal methods like meditation and get proper rest? How do we align ourselves with that? This is where technology can actually be a bonus. Accountability partners like your spouse, family members, friends, coworkers, calendar reminders in your computer or phone or in written calendars. Planning in advance and preparing can let you do those things too. Some context here. How are you supposed to pursue meditation if you haven't slept at all or if you're sick? How are you supposed to exercise if you don't eat anything? How are you supposed to work if you're hungry and distracted? Can you see how this fits together? All the pieces have to work together in their own way, or none of it works at all. Here's a bigger question. You're watching this, you obviously have an interest in being a Jedi Knight. How do you expect to balance being a Jedi Knight with your life if you don't tune to those things? Give me an honest answer. Think about it. But wait, there's more. It isn't just the strings either. We're not going to go too deep into this right here, but that's for another class. But look at the guitar. Look at how many things have to work in harmony and be kept in good shape, working order for this to make music. How many parts of your life overlap? It's best to give them some attention. So let's talk about tuning that instrument. There are lots of ways that we can find more harmony in life. We're going to skim through a few, but know this up front. Nobody, and I mean no one, has a perfect life. No one can possibly fix all these things and have them perfectly balanced. Don't come down on yourself if you can't. Work with what you can, where you can. Proper rest. The thing is, you may have to sacrifice to get that. You may have to change career fields because you're not getting enough rest, because you're working too many hours or multiple jobs. You may have to examine your relationships to see if friends or spouses or activities are keeping you from that proper rest. You may have to get more education and to be able to switch things and handle those problems, which means you may actually have to give up rest temporarily to gain more rest later. Like I said, no one area is ever going to be perfect. Proud about proper diet, in spite of what some people would like to say. If you don't have money or time, or if you live in an urban food desert where there isn't a whole lot of grocery stores, just bodegas, this can be a huge problem. There are ways to change that, but it will require give and take in one of the other places. You have to be okay with that. What about work? If work is dragging you down, either because you're not being paid enough or because of the environment, you may need to reassess things there. It may seem impossible, but it's not. However, any big change you make, you need to have a support system, a plan, and resources to do it. So don't make that leap. Now, covering meditation. Nope, not going to do it. That comes later. Nope, that's Master Lee's territory. That's Master Karen's territory. That ain't my problem. That is for others to deal with. So, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back in 10 minutes. I want you to get up and watch yourself for a minute. Balance, stretch, get some water, go to the bathroom, and we'll come back to this in just a few minutes. And I want to thank you for giving me the time to do this.
Much later.
Welcome back, everybody. We're in our second part of things. There's going to be a little bit more breaks in this part. So, what's this other vibration we're going to cover? Emotions and vibration. This is kind of an idea of how emotions move up and down. They sort of spiral. I mean, we've all had that day where everything goes wrong and just one thing triggers this collapse and you end up just sliding down into where you're a complete and total grouch. Not cool. But first, a question. Who here hasn't listened to a song or a particular artist with the full intention of altering their mood? Anybody? I didn't think so. So, as a wisecrack, because of my musical taste, I decided this meme would be perfect for me. Emotions are vibrations too. Think about it. That's how lie detectors, polygraphs work. It is a measure of the electric frequencies in the body to approximate if someone is telling the truth. Just like notes have a scale, so do emotions. Just like music with a sudden jump of frequency can be cool, it can also be jarring and discordant. One of the ways we can use music as a vibration is to match our mood and elevate it. We're going to go over that a little more. So here's just a bigger picture of the whole scale and how thoughts and feelings can relate to each other on the emotional scale. You can often use I statements. I love something. I'm full of joy. I'm engaged. These things can help you level out the emotions. There's some other ways too we're going to go over in a moment. You need to know why we're focusing on the emotions, and they're so important. There's a scientific reason, medical basically. There's also a piece of spiritual law from the ancient world. Hint, they're actually saying the same things. The scientific one is the placebo effect. The studies for it found that sometimes patients could get well just by believing they were being given a special medicine. It was also found that sometimes people could get really sick, even developing a fully trackable disease that could be proven just by the way they were thinking. The spiritual part is part of the 7 Hermetic Principles, which will be an entire separate video and class at some point. Now, ancient people knew that this stuff was possible. It's among the 7 principles in the picture, but it's summed up by what's called the 8th or hidden principle. That which you think about and feel about most often is what you will bear witness to or bring about. Let's double check some assumptions here. I know that sounds like a bunch of New Age hokum. It isn't. As a matter of fact, you can prove it to yourself right now. Remember the last time you got a new car? What happened? All of a sudden, they were every flippin' where. You couldn't go more than a few miles without seeing another one. So, what happens after a few weeks? You stopped caring about that fact. You stopped paying attention. So the awareness faded back into the background. This idea of emotions also applies to sound as far as healing. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, which is how we get to the idea of music as healing, not only emotionally, but vibrationally. There are things called solfeggios. So here's a frequency chart of them. These are the 10 frequencies that meditation music uses to do something to the body. These are often done through Tibetan singing bowls and synthesizers producing binaural beats. It's likely most of you watching this have used these at some point to fall asleep or counteract stress. So, what are these things, these solfeggios? They're specific tones of sound that help and promote various aspects of body and mind health. The frequencies are reputed to date back to ancient history, but they were kind of rediscovered by Joseph, I want to say this is Pulio, but I cannot pronounce it right. He rediscovered them in the 70s, and the idea is using mathematical numeral reduction to identify 6 measurable tones that bring the body back into balance and aid in healing. So, there's going to be a little bit of an edit, and I'm going to play some Tibetan singing bowls for you. Welcome back. Now that we're done with the Tibetan bowls, we're going to talk about other forms of music. Music is a whole brain experience that can help attune our body. It covers everything, just like we show in the picture here. So, we're going to get into the hang drum and try to listen to some of that music for about a minute, and we're going to come back and keep going.
A few moments later.
I hope you enjoyed the hang drum. I know I absolutely love them. I find them very moving. On a similar note, and pun intended, Native American medicine people, Aboriginal Australian people, Mongolian Tigris shamans, African tribal practitioners, even modern neo-pagan folks here in the US and Britain and Europe use rhythm and drums and so on as part of ritual. Many people use drums and rhythm to create their sacred space and get in the right mindset for spiritual practice. There are also some other ways to raise the emotional vibration. Exercise is one that releases endorphins. Dancing and singing release dopamine as well. Painting, sculpting, and so on, creating, can also release different cocktails of chemicals, leading to a more introspective peace. Learning new things can be exciting and lead to a dopamine rush. There's also a technique known as rampaging. Now I'm going to link to that below. Basically, a rampage is taking the situation emotionally, taking a negative or less valuable emotional state, and you go into it, face it, and keep raising the emotional level, going from anger to kind of like bitterness to vengeance to frustration to release to acceptance to and so on, climbing up the emotional tone scale. You do this by changing the language ever so slightly and repeating the last thing you said but at a slightly higher tone. So I'm going to link to that below instead of editing it into the video, and we're going to move on. So go watch the video and then come back and check your feelings. How was what we just watched affecting you? Can you see how rampaging like that is going to be another form of tuning the guitar? Start with a negative feeling, you just take it one step higher, embracing the next feeling and the next until you feel more calm, maybe even hopeful. Remember though, don't judge it. Work with what you have where you are. You may only be able to get to even vengeance. You may be so mad. We don't know that. Don't come down on yourself when you're in those states, because that'll only lower the tone again and ruin everything you just tried to do. MoveOn.com. Back to vibration. Reminder, nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. At its most fundamental level, everything in the universe is pure vibratory energy, manifesting itself in different ways. The universe has no solidity. Matter is merely energy in a state of vibration. Moving on. Let's do the two-step back and forward. Everything is energy. Everything is in motion, vibrating. Music is a form of vibrating. Emotions are a form of vibrating. Music can impact emotions. Emotions impact your life. Why is this important to the Force? Because the Force, as an energy field, feeds us. Our positive feelings, our focus, our health, our happiness. But it's a feedback loop. We feed back into it too. Calmness helps you have more confidence. Confidence helps you find the willpower to be determined And it all comes through self-control. It's a never-ending cycle of elevation and complementary energy. You have to embrace it, though. You have to trust yourself. This all leads back. Each action and emotion leads back to another over and over and over. What you have to do is teach yourself to listen to yourself, to silence everything else and listen to the force speaking into and through you. Listen to the music. One of my favorite songs by the Doobie Brothers. I'm also going to link it in the description. Turn on your favorite song. Let go and let the emotions coming from the music flow into you. This helps you not obsess over whether what you're feeling is accurate. It allows you to switch from being in a judgment mode to listening and paying attention. Basically, you're hitting an emotional tuning fork and checking the frequency to see where you're at. This can help you turn around and flip the script on whatever emotional state you're in to elevate yourself. The best place to start is the music. Start with your heart, the mind will follow. Start with the emotions, and the brain will cooperate. This goes a lot deeper, way more than I could cover in this class. Much of that is incredibly advanced, such as communication with plants and animals, empathy, clairvoyance, telekinesis. The instructors at the Praxeum each have special knowledge in those areas, and when you're ready, you can get it. But I think right now I fried our brains enough for one night. So what I want you to do is I want you to, over like the weekend or over the next couple days, find two things. A song that fits your emotion right now and or uplifts it a notch. And a song you used to love, but right now, yeah, that's not really working. It's kind of jarring right now. And ask yourself why that is. What made the difference? Is it the song? Or is it you that makes the difference? Thank you for joining me for this. Thank you for watching. And I want to say, may the Force guide you always. Be blessed, y'all.